All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are going deep on something that really is the lifeblood of any business, and that is getting people to actually find you. We're
Yeah.
talking all about traffic generation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like if you don't have traffic, you don't have a business, right? I mean, you could have the most amazing product or service in the world, but if nobody knows about it, well, it's kind of like having a party and forgetting to send out invitations.
It's like a tree falling in the woods. If nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Yeah.
I mean, does it even matter? And it's funny. This isn't just a problem for like brand new businesses just starting out. HubSpot did a survey and found that something like 63% of companies say they actually need help with traffic and lead generation. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a huge number, so this is definitely something that people struggle with across the board.
So for this deep dive, we've got a whole bunch of different materials all about how to get more eyeballs on your business. We're going to break it all down, figure out what really works, and help you, the listener, walk away with some seriously useful stuff that you can actually put into action.
That's the goal. We're going to look at everything from social media strategies to collaborating with influencers, paid advertising, and even how to tap into audiences that other people have already built. And there's a lot to cover, but we're going to keep it focused, zero in on what matttters most, and give you the key takeaways.
Yeah, we want to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed, but you still get the most out of it, right?
Absolutely. So before we jump into the nitty-gritty details of where to get traffic from, it's really important to understand some of the fundamental principles behind it. One of the key ideas that really stood out in all of these different materials is this. If you do what's easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your life will be easy.
Ooh, that's deep. It's kind of like saying you got to put in the work up front to reap the rewards later, right? I mean, nobody wants to constantly be struggling and hustling for every little bit of progress.
Yeah, exactly. Putting in that initial effort to build something strong is what sets you up for long-term success, instead of chasing those quick wins that ultimately fizzle out.
I like that. Build something strong. And one way to do that, according to the material we've got, is to focus. Like really focus on what you want to be known for. It's about becoming that go-to expert in your field.
Exactly. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Find that one thing, that one niche where you can really excel, and then make sure that everything you do, all your content, all your marketing efforts, everything points back to that central expertise.
So you're basically saying instead of being a jack of all trades, be a master of one, right?
Exactly. And, in today's world, it's so easy to just get lost in the crowd. So to be successful, you have to stand out. You have to be different. And the material we've got is pretty blunt about it. Like one of them says, don't just follow the masses, you'll get the same results. How are you going to stand out? What are you going to differently? And that's a question every business owner needs to ask themselves.
Yeah. How are you going to stand out? It's not enough to just copy what everyone else is doing.
Right.
You've got to have your own unique twist, your own unique angle. And one thing the material talks about is the structure of traffic. It mentions these two things: manage and multiply. Can you break that down a little?
Yeah, so manage basically means having the systems in place to handle the traffic you're already getting. Like making sure you're capturing leads, building relationships, and providing a smooth experience for the people who are already coming to you. Multiply, on the other hand, is all about actively going out there and finding new ways to increase the flow of visitors coming to your business.
So it's like you need a solid foundation in place before you start really scaling up your outreach.
Right. You wouldn't want to invite 1,000 people to a party if your house could only fit 50, would you?
That's a great analogy. And talking about foundations, one of the most interesting things I came across in this material is this idea of focusing on building a brand rather than just making a quick sale.
Yeah. And, a lot of affiliate marketers, they just kind of focus on that transactional approach. But building a brand, that's about playing the long game. It's about creating a loyal following that trusts you and keeps coming back for more.
Yeah, it's about that relationship, that connection. And it all comes back to this idea of your why. Why does your business even exist? And why should anyone care?
That's it. You've got to be able to answer those questions, not just for yourself, but for your audience too. People want to know what you stand for, what you believe in, why you're doing what you're doing.
And if you can't articulate that well,
then it's going to be tough to get people excited about your business.
So, strong why. Got it. Now, the material also lays out 5 rules of traffic. Let's go through them one by one. The first one is never waste a visitor. Retargeting. What's that all about?
Retargeting is like magic. You know how sometimes you visit a website, maybe even put something in your cart, but then you get distracted and leave?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Well, retargeting lets you show ads to those same people as they browse other websites, reminding them of what they were interested in. It's like a gentle nudge saying, hey, remember us.
And it's super effective, right?
Oh, yeah. Retargeting is one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal.
Okay, rule number 2. Don't go for cheap, go for results. Get qualified visitors. What does that mean?
This is all about quality over quantity. It's not just about getting a ton of traffic to your website, it's about getting the right kind of traffic. You know, people who are actually interested in what you have to offer, who are likely to become customers.
Just targeted traffic.
Exactly. It's much better to have 100 highly qualified visitors than 1,000 random people who are never going to buy anything.
Makes sense. Now, this next rule really got me thinking. It says, it's not about the product, it's about the offer. It's about the relationship you build. Communication people by outcomes, representations, feeling, emotions.
This is a big one. It's about understanding that people don't just buy products, they buy solutions. They buy into a feeling, an experience. So it's not enough to just have a great product. You've got to package it in a way that appeals to people's emotions, that speaks to their desires and aspirations.
It's about the whole package, the entire experience, the transformation.
That's it.
Now, rule number 4 says, play for the long term. Building a brand around a personality is infinitely easier. Your personality is an unfair advantage. Attract those I resonated with, repel those I don't. So be ourselves.
Exactly. You know, people can spot a fake a mile away. So just be yourself. Let your personality shine through in your marketing. That authenticity is what will attract the right people to you.
Be authentic. Be yourself. Attract your tribe. I love that. And finally, rule number 5. Have fun. It's a game. Fall in love with the process of becoming the very best version of you.
Building a business is hard work, but it should also be enjoyable. You know, if you're not having fun, what's the point? So find ways to make the journey enjoyable, embrace the challenges, celebrate the wins, and keep learning and growing along the way.
Yeah, you've got to love the process.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got these strong foundations in place. Now let's talk about this idea of a hub.
So your hub is like your central command center. It's where you bring everything together. Think of it as a platform where you can provide value, build a community, and connect with your audience on a deeper level.
So it could be your website, a forum, a really active email list.
It could be any of those things or a combination. The key is that it's a place where you have control, where you can create the kind of environment that will attract and nurture your ideal customers.
I like that, your own little world. And once you have this hub, this strong foundation, that's when you can really start to think about effortless selling, right?
That's the goal. When you've built up enough trust and provided enough value, selling becomes almost automatic because people already know, like, and trust you.
They're ready to buy. Now let's talk about the 2 types of traffic, external and internal.
External traffic is what you get from sources outside your own control. You know, like social media platforms, search engines, other websites. This can be a great way to get a lot of eyeballs on your business quickly. But the downside is that you're kind of at the mercy of those platforms, their algorithms, their rules.
So you're not fully in control.
Right. Whereas internal traffic comes directly to your hub, your own platform. This is where you have the most control.
You're the king of your castle.
Exactly. And the goal should always be to drive as much traffic as possible to your hub, where you can build those lasting relationships.
So external traffic is good for initial reach, but internal traffic is where you really build that strong foundation. And it all ties back to having a clear vision, right? Whether you're aiming for short-term wins or building a long-term brand.
Absolutely. Knowing what you want to achieve will dictate the best traffic strategies for you.
And then, of course, you've got to track everything.
Oh, yeah. Tracking is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You've got to know what's working, what's not, where your traffic is coming from, what people are doing on your website. Without that data, you're just shooting in the dark. One of the materials even said that wrong data can destroy your business, and I think that's spot on.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the big picture stuff. Let's get down to some specific strategies, starting with social media. Seems like everyone's on social media these days. But how do you actually use it to get traffic?
The main goal with social media is to get as many visitors as possible at the lowest possible cost. And to do that, you need to understand the platform, the algorithms, and how to create content that people will actually engage with. The material mentions that building relationships with influencers can be really effective.
Influencers, yeah, they're everywhere.
But the long-term goal should always be to build your own platform and your own audience. Don't rely on these external platforms. They could change the rules anytime.
So use social media as a springboard,
Hmm.
and then get people over to your hub, your landing page.
Exactly. And make sure your landing page is optimized. It should focus on the results people want, not just the features of your product or service, and always, always have that retargeting pixel in place.
Don't waste a visitor. Got it. Now let's dive a little deeper into some specific platforms, starting with influencer marketing.
Influencer marketing is all about tapping into someone else's audience, and there are networks out there that can connect you with influencers, but those can be expensive.
So reach out directly.
Yeah, if you're on a budget, that might be a better option. Just be personal, offer them something of value, and track your results.
Okay, now what about Instagram? What's the key to getting traffic from Instagram?
It's all about that message to market match. You've got to find influencers whose audience aligns with what you offer. And don't just look at follower count, look at engagement, the quality of their content, and how their audience responds.
Engagement is key. And how do you approach these influencers?
Manually, send them a DM, but don't just pitch them your product. Start by complimenting their work, showing them you're a real person who actually gets what they're doing, then offer them something that will help them achieve their goals.
Give value first.
Exactly.
What about Facebook? It seems like everyone's on Facebook, but it can be hard to get your content seen.
Yeah, Facebook is a different beast. It's not really about selling directly. It's more about building a community, engaging with people, and providing value. Focus on creating content that's shareable and has a long shelf life.
Content that provides value. And how do you find influencers on Facebook?
You can manually search through relevant groups and pages, or you can use tools like BuzzSumo or Upfluence to help you find the right people.
And when you reach out to them?
Same approaches with Instagram. Be personal, offer value, and try to bring their audience back to your community.
Makes sense. Now, what about YouTube? I feel like YouTube's a bit of a sleeping giant when it comes to traffic.
Yeah, YouTube's huge. It's the second largest search engine in the world. And the great thing about YouTube is that your content can live on forever. People can be finding your videos for years to come.
So what's the best way to use YouTube?
Collaborations are great. Team up with other creators in your space, create content together, cross-promote each other's channels. It's a win-win.
And what kind of content works best on YouTube?
How-to videos, educational content, anything that provides lasting value. And always make sure to include a call to action, driving people back to your hub.
Now, what about X? Twitter, as it was called before. I mean, it's super fast-paced, right? Seems like a tough place to get traction.
It can be, but there are some strategies that work well on X. First, identify influencers in your niche. Second, use tools like TwitterAudit.com to make sure they have real followers, not just bots. Third, create a list of your top collaborators. And fourth, start engaging with them, building relationships, and looking for opportunities to cross-promote.
So it's all about building relationships and finding the right people to collaborate with. Now, what about bloggers? Are blogs still relevant in today's world?
Absolutely. Blogs can be a great way to reach a targeted audience, and they're often a lot more affordable than other forms of advertising.
So how do you find good blogs to work with?
Just use Google, search for blogs in your niche, look for blogs that are ranking well in search results and that have a strong email list. Reach out to them directly. You can buy solo ads where they send an email to their list promoting your offer. Or you can explore banner advertising options.
So it's kind of like old school marketing, but it still works.
Oh yeah, it definitely still works. And then you have the world of podcasts. They're absolutely exploding right now.
Podcasts are everywhere.
And they can be a fantastic way to reach a highly engaged audience. Consider sponsoring podcasts in your niche, getting your message in front of people who are already interested in what you have to offer.
So tapping into that trust and authority that podcasters have with their listeners.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about another interesting strategy, leveraging other people's email lists.
Email marketing, it's still one of the most effective ways to reach people. And you don't necessarily have to build your own list from scratch. You can tap into lists that other people have already built.
So how do you do that? How do you find those lists?
Well, you can buy solo ads from bloggers and other online businesses. You can find directories of email lists online. There are networks that manage massive lists across various topics. And there are marketplaces where individual marketers offer their lists for rent.
Wow, so there's a whole ecosystem of email lists out there just waiting to be tapped into. But one thing that really stood out to me in all this material is this warning. Never depend on anything that is beyond your control.
So true. Social media platforms, algorithms, they can all change in an instant. So never put all your eggs in one basket.
Build your own platform.
Exactly. Control your own destiny. And when it comes to social media, keep your personal and business profiles separate.
Be professional.
Yeah. And always, always focus on providing value. Don't just spam people with your sales pitch.
So what about specific hacks for each platform? Let's start with Facebook.
Facebook loves shares. So one way to get more reach is to use Facebook Live. Send out an email to your list, let them know you're going live, and then deliver valuable content in real time.
Engaging content.
Yeah. Ask questions, encourage comments, and make it interactive.
What about Instagram? It's all about the visuals, right?
It is. And Instagram loves tags. So run giveaways, get people tagging their friends, and you'll see your reach explode.
Smart. And YouTube.
YouTube loves growth. So focus on creating how-to content that's evergreen.
Content that will continue to be relevant over time.
Exactly. And don't forget to include calls to action, driving viewers back to your hub.
Now let's talk about display ads. These can be a great way to reach a really wide audience.
Yeah, display ads are all about getting your message in front of as many eyeballs as possible. And you can use different platforms to do that, like Google Display Ads, buy-sell ads, native ad networks, and more.
So, lots of options. But how do you create ads that actually get people to click?
There's some really interesting strategies out there. Sometimes the weirdest ads perform the best. So don't be afraid to experiment. Try using weird images, shocking headlines, or even just plain text.
And what about the design side of things?
You can use simple tools like PowerPoint or Keynote, or you can go with more advanced options like GIMP or Canva, or hire a freelancer.
Great. Now let's talk about CPA marketing. Paying for specific actions like a lead or a sale. That sounds pretty efficient.
It can be. But you've got to know your numbers. What's your cost per lead? What's the lifetime value of a customer?
So you don't end up spending more than you're making.
Exactly. You always want to make sure you're getting a positive return on your investment and always retarget. Bring those people back who didn't convert the first time around.
And you mentioned there are networks that specialize in CPA marketing.
Yeah, there are quite a few. Some of the big names are Max Bounty, Perform Kippy, Global Wide Media, but they usually have an application process, so you might need to have a well-established brand or a strong online presence to get in.
So definitely something to aim for as you grow.
Absolutely. And then you've got some more advanced traffic strategies, like syndicate traffic media.
What's that all about?
It's all about collaboration, partnering up with other businesses that serve a similar audience but offer different products or services. It's a win-win. You recommend their stuff to your audience, they recommend your stuff to their audience.
I like that, leveraging each other's audiences. And this ties into content contributions and affiliate partnerships too, right?
Exactly. Guest posting, guest speaking, promoting each other's products. It's all about finding creative ways to work together and reach new audiences.
And finally, we have this concept of the automated traffic machine. It sounds pretty high tech.
It's more of a psychological approach than a technological one. You basically create a landing page that teaches people how to solve a problem, but you highlight how complex and time-consuming the traditional method is, and then you position your product or service as the easy, automated solution.
Make them want the easy way out.
Exactly.
And all of these strategies, every single one relies on retargeting.
Absolutely. Never waste a visitor should be your mantra.
It's all about getting the most out of every single person who shows even a tiny bit of interest in what you have to offer.
That's traffic generation in a nutshell.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, and I hope it's got you thinking about all the different ways you can bring more people to your business. It's not just about the latest tactics, it's about the big picture, building a strong foundation, providing real value, and consistently putting in the effort to attract those ideal clients. And remember, you don't have to do everything at once. Just pick one strategy that resonates with you and start implementing it.
That's right. Start small, track your results, and keep building that traffic machine.
Exactly. So what's that one thing you're going to focus on? What's that one small step you can take today to start driving more traffic to your business?
Start building your hub. Build your audience. Start building your dream today.
That's a great place to leave it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.